Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show in Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ET Now, special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center on every industry and area that matters to you. We travel to 20 different cities across the country, bringing you some of the most topical themes as well as the biggest experts to interact on a variety of topics. My colleague Pooja Jain traveled to Trivandrum to discuss how you can thrive in an exports-driven economy. Take a listen to some of the highlights coming out of that panel discussion.
Now, when we think about Trivandrum's export-driven economy, the first thing that comes to mind is the sheer range from technology to the traditional. And starting with tech, we repeatedly hear Trivandrum is a leading software exporter. Now, software can be developed, software can be licensed, software can be hacked. But what does it mean exactly to export software? And sir, I'd really like to start with you in terms of your definition of that term.
When we started, when you're looking at the software, India is known for software services. So if you're trying to do something different, and if you're trying to do it from a place like Trivandrum, and I must say that this place has offered a possibility and creativity which nourished and encouraged us to do something of that sort.
Well, Sir Vijay Raghavan, I'd like to sort of point out that, of course, the founding of the Technopark has a huge role in creating that conducive environment that Nandakumar just talked about. You're the founding CEO of Technopark, which is, I believe, the largest in all of Asia. How have you enjoyed the journey of watching it grow? And what are some of the biggest accomplishments there?
I would say that when Technopark was started in early 90s, this was a time when people actually shied away from Kerala for investments. So most people said it's not going to work. And we set what a lot of people thought at that time was a very big target, that there would be 5,000 people who would be employed at Technopark. Today, there are between 50 to 60,000 people working there. Kerala actually has many firsts. The first electronic development corporation was Keltron. The first research and development center in the private sector was ERNDC, which is now part of CDAC, again in Trivandrum, in the state public sector. We've had several such things.
With good technical work and the export of that work, the global demand for that work, has that resulted in, Doctor, the import of engineering talent and human capital talent in general? Would really like for you to share your perspective from the academic lens.
Yeah, if one looks at the ISRO, the thought originated from Ahmedabad, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. But the unique advantage of Trivandrum was they were looking at geomagnetic equator to launch the sounding rockets. That's why in November 1963, the sounding rocket was launched some distance from here in the valley, Thumba Equatorial Range Launching Station. It has grown over 5 decades to VSSC, various centers. In fact, they have so much power to incubate that the IIST was incubated by VSSC. So first 3 years, we were actually in their campus. Our founding director was the ex-director of VSSC. Now we anyway have a separate campus with about 900 students, 100 faculty. And our students come across the India because they are taken from IIT JEE advanced list. So I'm sure the such institutions along with like IISER, we do get a lot of bright students, not only undergraduate, postgraduate and researchers.
BIFA is, of course, a pioneer in the Ayurvedic space. And what I'd like to understand, technology aside, as we look at a far more traditional industry in some ways, how has the export-driven model worked to your advantage, sir?
I think Kerala essentially is very linked to Ayurveda. Kerala has a very unique, distinct system that we follow here, which is today accepted, recognized worldwide. And this is one of the few states where there is an Ayurvedic clinic in each panchayat, which is free for all citizens in the state. We have state-of-the-art Ayurvedic hospitals. also in all district headquarters where it is given free. And Kerala definitely has a pride of place for Ayurveda in the world today, not only in India, but in the world.
Kerala is considered to be the cashew capital of the world. But there are many climates that are conducive to creating cashews across the state, across, the country rather, and globally. So why here? Why in Kerala are we able to take full advantage and make cashews, such a staple item that are constantly in high demand?
It started off with the people here. The women here were willing to work outside in factories, even in the 1920s. And that was the basis for the factories being established here first. Later, in the 1950s, what happened was that we changed our model. Normally, a crop, which is an annual crop, you process it for 3 or 4 months, and after that, the factories are closed. But we evolved a model where the cashews from the southern hemisphere, that is East Africa, were imported into India right from the early 1950s, and it was coming here to Kerala. And we could give employment in the second half of the year too, and at the same time also make product available right throughout the year to customers overseas. So today we have reached a level where, our company, for example, we are able to place ready-to-eat cashews. We have people, I think, who have this thing of hygiene because we have water. So I think hygiene has been very high in Kerala. These are all factors which have helped us to grow in our industry.
And many of these factors point in a single direction, which is something you mentioned, sir, that Kerala is the state of many firsts. But how does that happen? Is it government-friendly policy? Is it a combination of factors? Is there an entrepreneurial spirit in the air here that isn't found elsewhere? I just want your assessment.
There's always been a thing which says that Keralites are very good workers. Keralites have been entrepreneurial. If you look at, even though Trivandrum was the first technology park in the country, even today, over 90% of the built-up infrastructure for software is provided by the government. So these are things which actually at various times there are interesting policies that come out. The government of Kerala startup policy, which was launched about 5 years ago, was at least 2 years before the national government had a startup policy. And that policy had a very interesting element into it, that students who had a startup in a recognized incubator would be given grace marks and would have a waiver in their attendance in the university. So I'm talking of things like that which really encourage entrepreneurship to come out. So governments from time to time have come up with policies in the area to support that.
Certainly easier said than done. So what is it that an entrepreneur needs to look for? How do they make sure that their product is relevant to these various markets? How do they compete from a cost perspective? Do they kind of go first to market? Is that the strategy they're adopting? Is it a combination of all of the above? Let's put it in more tangible terms. And let's look at it firstly from the Ayurvedic space, sir.
I guess this is a very important question a lot of people keep thinking about, like, what do I start with? But I guess, entrepreneurship, I would say, is a disease, as a kind of an instinct. It comes from within. And I always say there is nothing called as what prevents you from being an entrepreneur is a fear of failure. That is the factor that, be as employees, be as entrepreneurs, that's something which really blocks us from seeing things ahead. So for being an entrepreneur, you need to really look ahead and look straight and just follow your instinct. Another bigger thing, which mostly if you look at people, is they look at what are the neighbors doing? What does the next guy do? Who's successful and what do they do? I guess that's not what it is all about. It is really looking at what is the best benchmark in the world. Don't even take it from any industry. For example, we went into retail. We belong to a very traditional Ayurvedic family with a company founded in 1929. And we call ourselves the oldest startup in Kerala. Because you need to really start experimenting. You need to really start doing things which has not been done earlier. You should have the will to experiment and also the readiness to fail. And no big failure is a failure. Every failure is where you learn a new thing or you create you're on the way to create something else, something of value. this is a process which would help you reach what you want to attain. But you need to be very clear that you're going in that direction, and you should keep revalidating and correcting it, and it is a creation. It's a process of evolution, and you'll finally have a product, a model, which would make it perfect. For example, when I got into retail in 2011, I was a manufacturer. My company was a manufacturing company for about a B2B manufacturing company for about 80 years. And suddenly we came into retail, so the whole instinct was, let's start up a store. We started up a store, we started selling, and then, in 7 years today, we have 16 stores across India, across 9 cities in India, and we are setting up international stores. The entire process was a new learning. Every touch point was something new. And we realized that, it is not only products, but customer service, a lot of touch points which makes you successful in retail. So it was an entirely new retail experience which we incubated, we created, and now, yes, that is driving revenue. So it's become a strength for us.
You had a comment, sir?
Yeah, no, you may want to talk about how you productize on an international level, because your product definitely, touch up to the, compare with any Paris-made cosmetic, this thing. That is something which you may want to highlight.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I use his product.
Yeah. He's a customer, so he'd always better know about the brand than me. So I'm a creator, so I less know it from the other side. Yes, of course, when we got into retail, we first benchmarked Body Shop, the best of the international brands, for packaging, for experience, for retail, store design, everything. And we never looked at what was available locally, what was available nationally, built by large MNC companies. We went international, looked at how they pack their products. We traveled extensively across about 10, 20 countries, just to see what they do, how they promote, what they write, how do they package, what do they label. We create best models which people would love to or aspire to purchase.
I think, Hari, you need to tell about what difference you made on cashew. There was a time when the only cashew, which was just processed cashew, which we were selling. But he has done a big change in that sector.
Time for a break. On the other side, we'll continue bringing you some of the highlights from a panel discussion we did in Trivandrum. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're bringing you the highlights from a panel discussion that we did in Trivandrum about investing in an exports-driven economy. Do take a listen to some of those highlights.
When I came here, our factory was actually one of the factories which had taken over by the government, and it belonged to the government. We got it back with the Supreme Court ruling in 1993. So I had a factory with about 800 government workers, and we found it very difficult to run it, actually. So up to 2000, what I did was, I was just somehow trying to manage it. But in 2000, I decided, let me convert this into the best cashew factory in the industry. So I looked at other nut processing facilities in Turkey, and I also went to cashew factories in Brazil. And I came back and redid my factory, changed the whole thing, new things like uniforms for the workers, all sort of amenities, everything, etc. Put everything together and made it that. Because we needed to be, I thought we could do what our customers are doing. We made that decision in 2008. And since then, we started doing roasted and salted cashews. And from then, I think we just took it step by step. We went into microbiology and created systems where you could assure that you have a 5-log reduction of the microbes in nuts. And we were the first people to do this outside of America. They were doing it for almonds in America, but nobody was doing it in Europe, Japan, Australia, etc. So this got us a lot of attention among those customers. And then we went further forward and said that, okay, we want to place our product in the market in America. We got the private label business of major supermarkets as a trial order. And people thought that we'll fail. But then we set up our warehouses in America. We set up distribution in America. And happy to say that that business has grown. We've got more than one customer now. and it's become pretty big. And 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we decided that we want to make our own brand, and we launched a brand in America called Karma. Karma, eat good, do good, eat good, feel good. And the product, and we thought that what we should do is go with the international trends in food. One is convenience. The second is natural foods. And the third is exotic flavors. So we did three things. The first is, we developed cashews with the skin, but you can eat it with the skin. Normally you can't eat it with the skin. So we removed the bitterness rather than remove the skin. We created a product like that. And that we called it wrapped cashews, and we trademarked all that. And this product won so many awards in California. And then, but with just one product, you can't go further forward like that. But then we, coconut was becoming very trendy, and it's healthy. So we decided that, hey, we are sitting in Kerala, which is the best coconuts in the world. So instead of using old coconuts, what they were doing in America, we made product from Kerala coconuts on cashews. So coconut crusted cashews, toasted coconut, and this is doing extremely well. And these things have actually taken us forward.
When we started retail, we started with 40 products in 2 categories. Today, we've grown into 190 products across 7 categories. And we have really working forward to launches in 2021 and 2022. But it's more the excitement that really takes it to a different level. Second is when you get to meet the real customer, to experience what you make, and when you get the feedback, that's like several awards received every day. And it's an amazing experience. And it's one experience which really makes you do a whole lot of things to make your customer happy. And that's a real big change that you can create.
Absolutely.
Maybe I go back to your first question itself. How do you create the products, right? I mean, if you can see, they've all been making products for the global market, not just for the local. But you derive the experience from the local environment. And when we've been looking at creating product for the international market, first of all, it was not this was in 1995. The internet wasn't that popular. You don't know the market situation. You can't go and, at least Harry had opportunity to go around and see the whole thing. So one of the mantra which we used is to try to see how can you extrapolate the need of local to a generalized context. If we were to, this is maybe for people who are trying to create products in the technology space. That means if you have a basic need met, go back to the DNA of the problem. So how that experience can be redefined within the context of a bigger space. This is the process which we followed. To give you an example, in 2000, we've been extremely successful in telecom space. That's where the telecom, because our initial customers were all in telecom. We were only doing telecom billing product. And we've been successful in Europe from 98 to 2000. But the whole of that experience helped us to really imagine a possibility that using the same kind of approach and technology for banking. So we went to the banking space for a product which was just not existing in the marketplace at all. And we were the first in the world to come out with that product. So if you really look at what he was also talking about, is to identify the white spaces and trying to come out with product first in that space, and especially in the technology space is very important.
What's next for Kerala? How do you see it evolving?
It's a very difficult question to answer because Kerala changes too slow than the world. But of course, it has got a whole lot of potential to change spontaneously as well, because the potential is very much there. It's all about tapping it, and it's all about evolving. So I feel, number one, there is a whole lot of the startup culture in Kerala is kind of really catching up. I feel you can see a big mindset change in people earlier wanting to work to setting up industries. At least they're considering it. And the entrepreneur term is not anymore seen as, not so great term. And, people are not looked down upon anymore in Kerala. At least they're looked on par. I would not say they're looked up, but still on par. So the mindset is changing. There's immense potential in Kerala because it's got a very educated, very talented, very skilled workforce.
Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah.
Well, Kerala always had a different model. In fact, the Kerala model of development itself was looked at as very unique. But what you're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years is our problems are different from the rest of India. While the rest of India will have a very young population, we will have an aging population, okay? Because this is one of the few places few states in India where you have more women than men, where the infant mortality is very low. The population growth has been very, what you would say, reasonable, planned over the last several decades. That is one thing which you're going to see. So what is really going to happen is you will see the Kerala economy definitely doing well. And I believe that you will see a lot of the mind-based or the intellectually based businesses coming here. You will not see large manufacturing projects come in here. You will not see chemical projects coming in here. And Kerala will be a state which will continue to be a place for the rest of India to emulate from.
Your thoughts, Nandakumar?
Yep, Vijayaravan has pretty much covered every sector, but let me take up the IT and the technology space. Specifically, one of the uniqueness of Kerala IT industry is that we find more software products-based companies out of this place. So, as you've already mentioned, the technology-driven and product-based, intellectual property-based products companies are going to be one of the major force of Kerala IT industry. So that is what I am saying. And that is the indication which you see from many of the startups which you're seeing across the country and across the state. So I would say that it can become one of the very highly intellectual oriented entrepreneurship coming forward.
Your thoughts, sir?
We are anyway dependent on, our Google Maps and calling Uber. This geospatial and navigation will move on to indoors. There will be, from what we say, having autonomy in various type of objects. I am sure IT skilled people for building navigation, customized services, autonomy, a whole range of, services for people, for society, what finally will give us a smart city.
And your thoughts?
Ease of doing business has now become something which, is right there on the map and available for everybody to see. And governments, including Kerala, are going on that direction. And with the intrinsic ability to do things well, do the basic things well, I think Kerala can become a fantastic place for exports into the developed countries particularly.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation has made for some fantastic learnings and truly some groundbreaking takeaways.
Completely out of time on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you have any questions for us, do remember, as always, we love hearing from you. You can write in at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. On social media, tweet at us, Sunanda_J or LOT_ET Now. You can also reach us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now, or call us on that number you see on your screen. We love hearing from you. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.